What's up guys, this is Ollie and today we're continuing our starter guide for brand new Rivengard players. Last time we talked about what to buy and not to buy in the shop, the various game modes and a couple of other things. If you haven't checked out that video, I think this is one of the best starting guides if you just picked up the game, but I'm kind of biased. Today we're going to be talking about what you should be doing if you want to improve your heroes, if you want to work on them. So let's head right in. You all know this screen. This is the hero overview screen and there you can see all of your heroes. If you're not used to this way of displaying them, if you're clicking on the button in the top right, by faction / by power, normally it says different things. Here we go. This is by power. This is the most popular way of sorting your heroes by a long shot, at least for all the veterans in the game. Sometimes we have a new player who wants to join our guild and then he sorts his heroes by faction. And this doesn't really do anything for all of the veterans that want to know how strong you are. So just as a general rule, you want to switch this over as soon as possible, but you can always go back obviously, and just display your heroes by power. Now, the absolutely core fundamentals. Absolutely every hero has a couple of values that are super important. They do have a health stat, which is here. They do have a damage stat, how much damage they are inflicting, and they have an armor stat. These are basically the absolute core fundamentals that you need to understand. Now, the higher a hero's health is, the harder it is to kill that particular hero. The higher the armor is, the harder it is to kill that hero. Kind of the same thing, but we're going to talk a little bit more about armor. And then obviously the more damage he's inflicting with his damage stat, the better he is on offense, taking out your opponent's heroes. There are two types of damage in this game, and that is physical damage, which is very common for rogues and for warriors. And then there's also magical damage, which happens to be the most common way of inflicting damage for mages in this game. Classes are very important because they dictate how well positioned you are in a fight going up against an enemy unit. If you're playing a mage, you will do well against warriors. Mages inflict more damage to warriors. If you happen to have class and color advantage, you're dealing even more damage. Follow-up question that sometimes people ask on the official Discord: what happens if I only have color advantage but no class advantage? The answer is absolutely nothing. You're not inflicting extra damage. Like a blue rogue is not going to deal extra damage to a red warrior, for example. You need to have class advantage to also be able to gain color advantage. Now there's one exception to that rule. I don't want to go into like the nitty gritty too early, but just like keep this in the back of your head. In guild raid it's a different story. In guild raid everybody, every class, doesn't matter what class your heroes are, can have color advantage both against the dragon and against the dragon lings. But that should not be the topic of today's video. Every hero has effects, two of them in fact. They have an active effect, in Dogger's case it's hatched tadpoles, and they have a passive effect. Now the active effect more often than not is something that you trigger by just like basically saying, okay, I want to use the active effect, and then something happens. More often than not, this has like a very big effect on the field, and the active effect is the main reason why a hero is a good hero or not. There is next to no exception to this. There's almost no hero that you play solely for the passive effect. There are some exceptions. One would be Umanu, for example. Umanu is all about spreading darkness, which is the Night Banner, her passive effect. You don't really need the active effect, even though it doesn't really hurt to use Night Triple every once in a while when you're going up against a bunch of summons. Now, I kind of insinuated something here and I want to emphasize it once more for you guys. The passive effect cannot be triggered. Like, you don't have to say use passive effect now, something like that. This is not the case for almost no hero in this game. Again, there are some like exceptions in a way. For example, there are heroes that have a passive effect like Bullmon that triggers when you move the unit to a certain position on the field. So in a way you're triggering it, but it's not say move and use passive. You just say move and then the passive magically happens. And that's basically true for all of the passive effects in this game. They just magically happen when some condition is fulfilled, or sometimes they're just there. One of the most confusing things for a new player is that the stats stats of heroes do not go up when you level up a hero. So here we have Salvo, for example. He's at level 1. I just drew this hero the other day. And then if we throw a book at him, basically the pamphlet of experience, just 10 gold, and he levels up, his stats do not change whatsoever. He's still got 114 health, 28 physical damage, 26 magical armor, and the power level, the hero power that we can see here, which is basically a summary of both his stats on the one hand and the power of his abilities, did not change. Now the hero power is like an okay indicator to understand how powerful a hero is, but it's not the best indicator. And we're gonna see that in just a second when we basically drop some more gold into Salvo and we increase his level by 1 more. So let's just quickly go back. We can see it here, 114, 28, 26. We go back here, we say, all right, let's increase his level by 1, and absolutely nothing has changed. He's still got 114 health, he's still inflicting 28 physical damage, and he's still got 26 magical armor. So why are his stats not going up when we level up the unit? Well, that's just the way that Rivengard works. And this is something that you really have to understand, because sometimes people are leveling, and then they're like, okay, now unbeatable.
Yes! I am invincible!
I got like a level 50 unit and I'm sending her into arena and nothing happens. And the reason is leveling up only allows you to do 2 things. First of all, you can now increase the level of your active and passive effect. So we can pay 25 more gold and suddenly he's doing more damage with bombardment, his active effect. His hero power is also going to go up. So he's currently at 349. We go to the passive, we drop 25 gold, we go back, and suddenly he's at 354. So the hero power, like I said, is like an indicator of how strong the hero is. But the takeaway here is leveling up only allows you to increase the active and passive effect levels. On top of that, you could also see, if you paid very close attention, that all of a sudden these little icons down here, which are representing gear that you can put on your hero, have started to become green. Because now I can equip one of my 24 copies of the Master Crafted Coif. And if I do this, his magical armor is going up a little bit, and as a result his power rating is also increasing a little bit more. And then if we do with one more time and we give him like a second copy of that coif, all of a sudden his armor goes up again. And now something very important changes. We can rank up the unit, and this is the best way. Some would say the only way, but that's not quite true. This is the best way to make this unit stronger, because now if we go rank up, look at this, we can see that both the health, the physical damage and the magical armor all got a slight push, and at the same time the hero power also got a bit of a push. I talked about this in my promotion and ascension guide in some detail, just want to repeat it here for new players. So basically it's all about the gear rank of your hero, and that indicates or shows you very clearly how strong that hero really is. Gear ranks at the moment are gated, like you can only reach a certain level in terms of gear rank, and that is gold rank 1. This is true for all of the epic units, and then you will also very clearly see a message that is spelled out here on the screen that you reach the highest rarity and you cannot get him any higher. First you have to get him to the next rarity in the game. If you click on the epic button to the left here, we can also see there's a hero progression, and it says that if you get the hero to legendary, you will eventually be able to get that hero to diamond rank 3. So you're like inclined to feel, oh my god, this hero can become so much stronger than he is right now. However, if we are now looking at a legendary unit, for example Grandma Bones, we can see that yes, she is gold rank 1, but there's all of a sudden lots and lots of question marks. So in theory, she should be able to go up even higher, to become like an even stronger level in terms of gear. However, this has not been implemented in the game, at least at the time of this recording. All of this has some widespread repercussions, because it means that no matter what you do, no matter if your unit is level 35 or level 50, the stats of your unit will always stay the same, at least when it comes to the gear that you can put on the unit. There is a second way to make your units stronger, and that is by using equipment. Those are basically basically these 3 slots that you can see right below the leveling bar. So you can equip your heroes with a weapon. The weapon does not add anything to the stats. Now that's very important. Even if you give your mage like the best weapon in the game, the Titan's Toothpick, some would say that the wisp bond is better, but I prefer crit rate over damage that you're dealing. Even if you equip the very best weapon in the game, the damage stat is not gonna go up. So here we can see this, she's currently dealing 447, and then we put on the wisp wand and nothing has changed. She is still dealing 447 damage. So the weapon is only there for one thing and one thing only, and that is the critical damage that you are doing. So crit damage means that you have a chance, you can also see it here, it's 28% for Grandma Bones to inflict extra damage. This depends on 2 things. It's the weapon that the unit is wearing, and on top of that, the ring that the unit is equipped with. So if we were to equip the Ruby Ring of Rending, the epic ring, the only epic ring in this game, the crit chance would go up by 1%, which is somewhat significant, and we would also be doing a little bit more crit damage, which is also somewhat significant. But if you compare the damage that the ring is doing, is 21 per investment, and you compare this to the damage that you would be doing with the weapon, it seems to be like the rings are a lot less significant, and they are mostly there to improve the crit chance. At least that's my personal take. Some other players might disagree. The same is not true for the armor that a unit is wearing. So Grandma Bones here, for example, is wearing the Unholy Robe of Night, and it adds health and it adds armor. So basically the armor that a unit is wearing is directly affecting the stats. So if we now go and equip the Holy Robe of Day, her armor rating is gonna drop significantly. It's now 299, and if we go back and we equip the Unholy Robe of Night again, suddenly the armor rating is 452. For every class in this game, there's always 2 types of weapons and 2 types of armor at the legendary rank, and that is one that has a high crit chance and, in direct comparison, a lower crit value, and for the armor, a high health rating and a low armor rating, or basically a balanced armor and health rating. Now, what you should be equipping your units with is a bit of a question of personal preference. I feel that mages are better off with being equipped with the Holy Robe of Day, which basically increases the health and does not increase the armor that much. Now, the reason for that goes back to the triangle that we talked about earlier. We learned that rogues are doing extra damage against mages, and rogues, just like Giggs for example, more often than not tend to be doing physical damage. Now, physical damage like cuts straight through magical armor. Now that's very, very important. That's like a concept that you have to understand. So for that reason, mages are often being shot at by rogues and sometimes by warriors. Other mages can't really do that much damage to them in direct comparison because they happen to have magical armor. So for that reason, it makes more sense to give your mage more health, because then there's a chance that your mage is going to survive 2 or maybe even 3 hits by a unit that is inflicting physical damage. There are some units in this game that happen to have armor that is not the typical type for their respective class. One such unit is Pilator, who happens to be a mage, but he's carrying physical armor. Now this is a very, very big deal, but like I just said, mages more often than not get attacked by rogues, but rogues more often than not inflict physical damage. And then if you happen to have a mage with physical armor, his chances of survival are going up by a lot. This also means that Pilator is a really good unit in guild raid, because the dragon in guild raid inflicts physical damage when he's doing the dragon landing, for example. So Pilator is already a pretty bulky, beefy unit, happens to have like decent amount of health, and then if you put a really good equipment on him and suddenly his health and his armor are going up, he can tank dragon landings like an absolute boss. Unlike gear, armor equipment is not gated. That means that you can equip a level 11, that is the highest level that you can have, legendary weapon onto a legendary unit. So in this sense, you can see that there's a big difference between the two. You cannot go above gold rank 1, which is basically the stat increase that a unit starting from level 35 gets, but you can go way above when it comes to the armor and the equipment. And the same is true for effects. Now you can have a unit that has a level 48 effect, or you can have a unit that happens to have a level 50 effect. And this is extremely significant because we can see this here. A Reefkin Tadpole that Dorga spawns at level 50 has values of 939 health and 939 damage. If we compare this to any level 50 unit in the game, so let's take for example Tanamo, she's at level 50, she's maxed out on gear ranks, we can see that they are doing twice as much physical damage. Now they do happen to have less health, Tanamo does have a little bit more health, however keep in mind Tanamo is wearing some equipment that is giving her 400 additional health. So if we were to take the equipment away, Tanamo would be roughly on equal footing with a Reefkin Tadpole at level 50, but her attack stat will only be half as much. So this is something, one of the core concepts of this game, at least at the time of this recording. This means that effects in this game are way more powerful than the stats of your units. This means that if you want to do more damage in guild raid, you have to have units that have level 50 or level 40 plus effects. If you want to do well in arena, you have to have legendary units with effects of level 40 plus. It's always the same basically. Having very strong units only gets you so far in this game, and the number one thing if you want to do damage in this game, if you want to play among the top players in this game, is making sure that the levels of your units are as high as possible. I got some good news and I got some bad news for you guys. There's a very clear video that shows you how to level your units as efficiently as possible on this level. The bad news is, even if you know how to do this, it's gonna take forever. Leveling units in Rivengard is an absolute chore. I have been at it for months, still trying to get my Archeo to level 50. I guess when this video is done rendering, there's a very good chance that I'm going to spend the 40 minutes of rendering just continuing to work on this unit and finally get this unit to level 50. It takes forever, but it's so worth it because you can see that here, if you go to this effect, the jump in power from a level 49 to level 50 is absolutely significant. I mean, it costs a lot of gold. We can see that here 250k is no small amount of gold. However, we're doing 200 extra damage when we go for kill command, and the same is true for almost all of the effects. If we go back to Tanamo for example, she's already dealing 1674 damage. That's like a lot. That's a lot more than most mages happen to have in terms of health. And then if we drop another 250k on Tanamo for example, she's doing 1881, and even like a Dorga is just straight going down, even if you don't first use a Giggs or a Tim or any other effect to soften them up. Lastly, let's talk about stars, which is basically the core topic of my hero ascension guide. Stars only add extra power to your base stats. Hey guys, Future Oli here after lots of editing and going over my entire video for a third time. I spoke to Lord Nako, who's running the Rivengard wiki, and he basically told me that there's a bit more to level stars than we all thought. It's not just base stats, there's something else. So let's pay very close attention to this example. Here we have a Seat without any stars whatsoever. This is in the test environment. This is where you can do these shenanigans. He needs 2 more upgrades. We can see those at the bottom here, and one of them gives plus 5 health and the second one gives plus 4 health. So basically after applying them, he went from, this is the beginning, 40 health to 49 health. So he got those 2 upgrades. And now there's something that is happening and you need to pay very close attention again. If we rank up Seat, he stays at 49 health. And the reason for that is that every star also multiplies the bonus that you get from your gear upgrades by 20%. So let's do the same thing one more time. Here we have another Seat. This guy has 11 stars. The big shiny legendary star basically represents 11 stars because that's how many you have to have until you end up with this particular star. And he's at 137 health. Now that makes sense because his base stats were a little bit higher thanks to the legendary star. And now if we rank up, he's going from 137 to 156. And the reason for that is that he gets a 20% buff on the gear improvement, which was 9 points. and it's 20% 11 times, which adds up to 2.2, and 2.2 times 9 leaves us with 19.8, but we're rounding down, and that's why he basically gets almost 20 points increase. All of that means that diamond ranks are going to be making a very big difference. Promoting unit is going to be making a very big difference, because all of these little boosts that your unit was getting from gold rank 1, gold rank 2 and so on is going to be multiplied 11 times or up to 11 times if you happen to have 11 stars for your unit. That's a massive difference, obviously. Now back to the original video. And once we do have diamond ranks, it might be worth it a little bit more, or like even a lot more, to add those like coveted legendary star that is super hard to get. There's like a lot of resources you need to dump into one unit to get them to this legendary star. But that's basically it. That's all there is to know about how to improve your heroes and what makes a hero a strong hero or not. Lastly, there's one more thing that we should at least mention in this video, and that's of course the traits of hero. We can see here, for example, Tanamo is flying. She can jump over, fly over, whatever there is in the way. She can also get around stuff like a landmine that otherwise an enemy could throw in your way and make sure that you cannot connect with the units. That's a trait that's very, very important. And there's also a couple of traits like the Bushkin trait, for example, that the heroes of the Sacred Grove have that can allow you to do even more damage when you're standing in shrubs or something like that. There's also some defensive traits that allow you to take less damage. For example, we see here Ranaklu has Terrifying. He takes minus 40% melee damage, so even though he is a mage and more often than not he will get attacked by rogues, and more often than not rogues are doing physical damage, there's a very good chance that Ranaklu is going to be hanging around for a little bit longer despite having magical armor instead of physical armor, at least as long as the rogue is not a ranged attacker like a Gix. So like a Tanamo, for example, will have some issue with one-shotting Ranaklu, at least when it's a regular attack. Now we're going to go into a little bit more detail when it comes to fighting, how combat works in Rivengard, but this is a topic for yet another video because it's quite complicated how to do this in this game. There is a lot that goes into combat in Rivengard. I actually started recording it and then I realized, okay, I cannot like combine this with this video. It deserves its own video because it's a somewhat complicated topic. So there's yet more to learn about this game, and if you want to learn more about this game, this is the channel for you, my friend. There's a couple of videos that are gonna break everything down: how to do well in arena, how to get more gold on Treasure Beach, and how to master every adventure in this particular game. So subscribe to this channel, and if this video was helpful, please do me a favor, leave a like and a comment below and let me know that you appreciate the work that went into this. If you want to become an even better player, join the official Discord, and on top of that, join the Discord of my squad Eternal Nexus if you want to fight some legendary dragons with us. That's all I got for today. Hope to see you guys very, very soon, either here on the official Discord or in the arena in Rivengard. Take care, see you guys very soon. And the reason for that is that levels only allow you to do two things. One, you can now work on the whoops. And the reason is leveling up your heroes only